All right, next is the continuous improvement monitoring system. Ms. Hayes. Hi.
Good evening. As always, we have board reporting and public reporting that includes sharing about special education monitoring that happens on a regular basis throughout year after year. That system is called CIMS, which means Continuous Improvement Monitoring System. The continuous improvement system is basically a system that promotes positive outcomes to ensure compliance with our IDEA laws as well as our Michigan Administrative Rules for Special Education. CIMS is designed, and I'll use the term CIMS, which is the improvement monitoring, was designed to help locals like ourselves, our district, to interpret data and to keep track of all monitoring activities on different performance indicators. So the state performance plan is somewhat like if you think about a school improvement plan. It's the state's plan and the targets that they want all of us in our special education department in our districts to focus on. And then they have tracking for those. So the first part of state performance plan is in alignment with IDEA, the Individual with Disabilities Education Act. And it talks about the efforts to implement the requirements for what's called Part B. Part B is for our students that are ages 3 to 26 in Michigan. We're still the only state that does provide services through the age of 26. The SPP, the State Performance Plan, includes annual targets that we work on consistently that includes 18 indicators. And those indicators are not identified by us or the state, but they're actually identified by the Office of Special Education Programs at the U.S. Department of Ed. So it filters down from the federal, state, to the state, and then to the locals in terms of those performance targets. The state performance plan also has a component called Part C. So there's a Part B and a Part C. Part C is ages 0 through 2 years of age. And it is in alignment, again, with IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, and there are state performance targets for that age group as well. Another area of focus is called significant disproportionality. We've talked about this many times throughout my course and my time here so far. But just to give a little bit of background on significant dispro, it is based on race and ethnicity in the following areas: identification of children with disabilities, identification of children with particular impairments, so a specific eligibility area, the incidence, duration, and type of disciplinary action, which may include suspension and expulsion, placement of children with disabilities in a particular educational setting, meaning in the general education setting, in specialized programming, that kind of thing. So that percentage, so we keep track of all of those things. So that's just some of the indicators for significant dispro. So as you know, the state continuously joins us in looking at our data over every year on those performance targets for the state performance plan. Over the past few years, we've had what's called significant disproportionality issues, as well as we've had some other things that have come up. So I wanted to share with you our most current data read and work with our MDE consultants. And this data is actually from 2013-14, so they're always back 2 to 3 years on all the data that we're actually looking at. Yes, Mr. Summerfield, that's correct. It's backdated. It's never current, so unfortunately. So we're kind of always looking backwards and trying to plan for the future. So this is just an example of one of the experiences that we had during our monitoring. Michigan Department of Ed completed their data review, and I just bulleted this for you, to look at areas of disproportionate representation. The data indicated that we did have significant disproportionality with students who have emotional impairments, so in a special ed category area, that are Black, which is in item number B10, which is one of the indicators. So when you see that parentheses B10, or that's what the indicator number is, okay? Our focus monitoring, so they come out and they talk with us, they do file reviews, they interview staff, we look at policies, procedures. We have quite an intensive day with them to go through all of our information. And I wanted to share with you the outcome. So the outcome was that they did the file reviews and they found 3 procedural errors. The documents did not indicate that the notice page was given on the day of a meeting. The procedural safeguards were not given at the time of the meeting, and the FAPE page was not used properly. So basically what this means is that the box that may not have been checked on the document, it didn't mean that we actually didn't provide these things to the families. It means that the file in front of them was missing a checkbox, an I dotted, or a cross T. So that was the actual issue. It wasn't that we didn't provide these things. The documents didn't show it. So the corrective action was for us to complete the new IEP, the new plan, provide notice to the family, provide the procedural safeguards, and identify those on the documents by checking the boxes. So the results were actually more of a filling the document out correctly, not that we hadn't provided the information to the families. So just as an example of one monitoring. So then we move up one more year, and this is data from 2014-15, so we're getting a little closer to actual date. This was actually a B12 indicator, which is actually looking at timeliness of the IEPs for students that are 0 to 2, turning 3, so taking them from Part C, which is 0 to 2 years old, to Part B programming. So the data was reviewed, bless you. The data was reviewed. They indicated that we are not compliant with timely IEPs for students ages 0 to 3. The district information was reviewed and the data management system was reviewed. The individual case files were reviewed and all the dates were actually correct. The corrective action was that there was no need for corrective action because actually the problem was the communication between the student database and the MyStar database. So the information wasn't articulated from system to system, and it was actually, we were in compliance. So they figured out that there was a communication error with the reporting versus an actual error from our district. So that was a positive outcome, of course. And they're fixing it for future, which is also a good thing. So hopefully that data won't be inaccurate again for the future. So current status, and this is, again, as current as we can get, 14-15 data, indicates, that we're looking at now in May of 2016, okay, that was our last reporting out that they gave us, that we are identified as having significant disproportionality for discipline of black students with disabilities, basically meaning suspension and expulsion. I gave you some information here, just some data for you to look at. So the Office of Special Ed Programs uses a weighted risk ratio, and they look at any category that goes over a 3.0 equals significant disproportionality. So our current data for 14-15 indicates that for discipline of black students with disabilities, we're at a 5.11, and then there's a category called 2 or more races with disabilities, we're at a 3.54. So I'd like you to look at the next bullet because I think this is probably one of the most important pieces of data, is that our actual total student count with disabilities suspended or expelled for greater than 10 is an actual total of 11 students. So doing the numbers, you're actually looking at 7 out of 288 black students at 41%. So it basically is showing you that there's a total N of 11, meaning your sample size. So it's a very small number of students. I think probably the most important slide is the next slide. Since I've been working in the district and we've been together, our work has been consistently to improve our outcomes no matter what the monitors come in with, no matter if we checked a box, we didn't check a box. Some of the things that I think is very important is our work that we've been doing for PBIS. We're in our second full year of implementation at every building across the district. We have alternatives to suspension in place. We have the options program, the alternate learning center at North. We have had cultural competency programs in place, and our district's been working on that as a whole. We've been doing data reviews consistently amongst our administrators, including Dr. Dean, myself, spending time looking at pulling out data, disaggregating data, looking at our trends. And that's been very, very important for us to talk through with every administrator when we go to those building meetings. So I think that that's been very helpful. And this is, again, our work since 2013, regardless of the data that comes now or 2 years back. This is what we've been doing consistently since 2013. And also, I think it's been imperative that our communication and collaboration between our building principals and our special ed administration has grown immensely and has increased on a case-by-case basis that has helped us all become more aware of alternatives, of looking at students' disabilities and how that impacts discipline and impacts education. And also, I think it's in the end, we still may meet the criteria for significant disproportionality, which is unfortunate, but we are doing a lot of great work, and we've been doing a lot of targeted efforts as a district to make positive gains in addressing behavior and discipline for all of our students. So I just wanted to make sure that I did an update for you in the area of where there's a lot of information, and try to at least give you kind of an overview. But again, there's a lot to it, but I hope that it was somewhat helpful in a big picture of special ed world.